Rather than spending hours and hours scouring the web trying to find an unbiased source of world news, the search is over once you discover Straight Arrow News. Whether you're checking out the app on your mobile device or on a browser on a PC, Straight Arrow News has just the facts right at your fingertips, without concern of being lied to and manipulated like the mainstream media so often has done to us. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, Straight Arrow News has something for you, and it's a place you can trust to find all the information you need. Head on over to san.com/geekdom or click the link in the description and see for yourself. So it's been a minute since I've done a video on the future of the MCU and theories and what to expect with the upcoming Avengers movies. We know that Avengers Doomsday is coming and Avengers Secret Wars. I've looked at some of the information that's come out, some of the rumors, and there have been some pretty crazy rumors. So what I want to do with this video is I want to take some of those rumors and not necessarily leaks, because when it comes to rumors of the MCU, as many of you know, we don't know what's real and what isn't. I mean, there's always going to be rumors that are proven correct and rumors that are proven fake. Or maybe the fake ones were correct at one time, but they were changed. And obviously, the one thing the MCU has done lately has been change of plans. The big one, of course, being the rebranding and the changing from Kang Dynasty to Doomsday. So I want to discuss in this video how I think they can actually make sense of Doctor Doom being played by Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark being played by Robert Downey Jr. and how it can actually make sense in universe with an idea that's a pretty big twist. It's a pretty big twist, but one that I think could work to sort of have it make sense. Now, the reason why I'm even covering this, why I'm even talking about it, is because there have been some interviews that have come out from the staff behind the Avengers Doomsday film, and they've said that this is our Doctor Doom. This is not a variant of Tony Stark. It's not like a temporary thing. Like Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom is the real Doctor Doom. And when they say that, I'm thinking, okay, so when you say that's the real Doctor Doom, how do you explain the fact that we've had the main hero of the first three phases have the exact same face as him in universe? Obviously, we know it's the same actor. Is it a situation where it's just the same actor playing multiple roles? The MCU's done that before with some minor roles here and there. So it's not the craziest thing in the world. But there may actually be more to it. And I think with this situation, you can't really do that because Robert Downey Jr. is such a high-profile actor. And if you're going to have the main protagonists of the first three phases and the new antagonists of these last few phases be the same actor, you can't just have it be a coinky-dink that they look alike. I don't think it's a coinky-dink, you understand? I think there is a way it can be explained to where it makes sense and also still ties into what we've already had explained to us in the past few years. See, the problem here is that they were going in a direction with Kang the Conqueror. They had Ant-Man come out. They had the Loki shows come out. They had all these plans for Kang. And now they've taken Kang out because of the Jonathan Majors controversy and really because Kang wasn't working, according to a lot of people. And so they've decided to do this move where they're going to pivot over to Doctor Doom. So now Doctor Doom has taken Kang the Conqueror's place as the upcoming antagonist for the MCU. And at first I was a bit unsure about it. I really did want to see Majors finish out that role, but, I understand what happened and it's just not going to happen. I don't want to dwell in that. But obviously Robert Downey Jr. is a phenomenal performer. And whether it be as a good guy or a bad guy, he played the ultimate good, a flawed man, but a good man in Tony Stark, eventually now coming back to play a man who's probably not truly fully evil. He's probably got some good inside of him because Doctor Doom's always been a complicated character. He's always been a multi-layered character in the comics, and I would find it foolish if they didn't do that. How can this make sense? So, the first thing you have to understand, let's go ahead and get started, okay? First thing you have to understand, I want to make this very clear, is that it's already been confirmed that the Fantastic Four film that's coming out, First Steps, takes place in an alternate universe from the 616 universe. It's a new timeline, a new universe, or not new, but a new to us that we haven't seen before, that takes place in the 60s, but it's a different timeline. So technologically, they're far more advanced in that version of the 1960s than we were in our version of the 60s. So we know that we're going to have the members of the Fantastic Four. Galactus is supposed to be in the film, and Doctor Doom is rumored to have a mid-credit scene, but what we know is that Doom is supposed to be from the same universe. Now, remember, the key here is it's like the futuristic past, right? Which means that if you're following along in a linear timeline, let's say that the 616 timeline and this timeline are both following linearly side by side, these events would have taken place in the past already, before Infinity War, even before Iron Man 1. Because Iron Man 1 takes place in 2008 when the movie came out. I'm pretty sure it was 2008, right? So if this is in the 60s, it's decades before. However, we can't look at things like that, because when it comes to anything involving the multiverse and time travel, whether or not you have Kang the Conqueror involved or not, you have to look at things from a fourth dimensional perspective. And this is hard to grasp for some people. I've done videos both on this channel and on Geekdom 101 about time travel, and it's kind of hard for some to really understand it, because, you know, I get it. It's kind of, you have to think outside of just a linear timeline. And when you look at somebody like He Who Remains, who's a Time Lord, he can exist throughout all time because he sees everything. It's kind of like thinking about the Abrahamic version of God, how God exists outside of time. That's kind of how Kang the Conqueror sort of is, right? And these principality characters in the MCU or in the Marvel universe overall, right? So linearly might not be the way to go, but in theory, it's in the past. Now, if Doctor Doom, played by Robert Downey Jr., is the real Victor Von Doom, it's not just a variant and the other one gets revealed later, played by a different actor, it's actually the original Victor Von Doom, then what does that say about Tony Stark? Are they saying that's not the real Tony Stark? So let me propose a theory to you. If you remember, during the Ant-Man and Quantumania mid-credit scene when we saw the Council of Kangs, that warping technology that we see where they warp all these different Kang variants from different multiverses in resembled the technology we saw Reed Richards use in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is because, in case you don't know, Nathaniel Richards is Kang the Conqueror's real name, and the original Kang from the year 3000, before he discovered the multiverse, he thought that he was a descendant of either Mr. Fantastic or Doctor Doom. Now, that's in the comics. That was not said in the MCU just yet. However, even if they weren't going to explain that, there's clearly a hint, clearly a tie-in when it comes to technology. And we know that the reason as to why Kang the Conqueror was so powerful is because of his access to technology that can neutralize even the strongest Avengers, right? Now, if they're going to be bringing in Doom as the villain, they're going to have to figure out a way to sort of erase, or not erase, but write Kang out. Now, a lot of folks think they already did that with the end of Loki Season 2, when they were like, well, we're handling it, basically implying that the TVA will take care of the Kang variants. But that's not necessarily the case. And there's a lot of rumors that in the mid-credit scene of in the mid-credit scene of Fantastic Four, we're going to see Robert Downey Jr. debut as Doctor Doom and take out the Council of Kang, and basically, in a meta way, but also in universe, establish himself as the primary antagonist, right? Now, what if Kang the Conqueror The one that, at least the one that was banished to the quantum realm, or actually not that one, but He Who Remains. Because He Who Remains knew about the Kang variants, knew what they were going to do, created this sort of sacred timeline to protect from these Kang variants. What if he also knew about Doctor Doom? What if He Who Remains, prior to his, I guess, being overthrown by Loki, if you want to put it that way, what if he knew that Doctor Doom would be as much of a threat, if not more so, than the Council of Kangs? Or what if he stole his technology from Doctor Doom? Because remember, in some of the old canon, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom were scientists that worked together, right? So you would think that that technology, they would be aware of it. And I think that the Fantastic Four movie is going to show that they, the brilliant mind that is Reed Richards, because he is a genius, right? Well, what if he knew that this was a possibility and thus he had to create a failsafe plan? So he creates his TVA, his sacred timeline, to protect himself and protect the multiverse from going out of whack, right? And maybe as a failsafe, he manipulated the timeline so that Victor Von Doom never became Victor Von Doom. Now, how did he do that? If he has access to time travel powers, what if he went back in time, either within the 616 universe or even in the universe the Fantastic Four are in, because it might make more sense to do it there, and took Victor Von Doom as a baby, brought him into 616, and maybe went to Howard Stark, the hospital where Tony Stark was born, and swapped out the babies. And that's why the Victor Von Doom that we see in these movies looks like Tony Stark, because it's actually the same one, right? Now, hold on, I'm not done yet. And what ends up happening is Howard Stark has no idea this happened, right? And throughout his whole life, Tony grew up believing that Howard Stark was his father and wanted to follow in his footsteps because of all the great things his father did. He didn't want to, have a rivalry with Reed Richards or any of that, right? That was not the Victor Von Doom. It's a nurture versus nature thing. Nobody's born evil, right? And Doctor Doom became evil because of his reaction to bad things that happened to him, right? So the Tony Stark that we knew in the first three phases is actually the whole time been Victor Von Doom if he were raised by Howard Stark in a universe without the Fantastic Four, which explains why they didn't exist in that version, right? And went on and did his thing. And it could be possible, in fact, if you want to throw something else in there, that when Doctor Strange tapped into the Time Stone in Infinity War, he saw all of this and then realized the ultimate fate, that ultimately Kang the Conqueror set it up so that at some point Tony Stark would sacrifice himself, therefore really putting away anyone to threaten him. However, the Avengers did use time travel. Now, this would mean that there were events that occurred prior to the first multiversal war, meaning that all these events involving the Kangs and even Doctor Doom himself may have taken place before any of the events of the first three phases. Because remember, we're talking about time travel here, and when it comes to time travel, it might not be just one linear time. Things can take place in different parts of the timeline that retroactively affect the past and change the past if you go into the past, right? So, hopefully you're not confused yet because I'm not done. Now, then the question is, well, how does this Doctor Doom emerge now? if they successfully were, if He Who Remains was able to successfully take the baby and raise him up to be Tony Stark, maybe even having knowledge of what Iron Man would become. Because maybe the real Tony Stark, the biological Tony Stark, maybe he saw him as a great hero. Maybe his life would have been very similar to the one that we got from the Victor Von Doom baby, right? What if, right? What if after the events of Loki and after the establishment of Loki becoming the real-time god, right? What if now there are more branching timelines? And what if there was a branch before He Who Remains was able to do anything? And thus, because of that, that would explain how Doctor Doom is back. In other words, Kang knew and feared what Doctor Doom could do. And so he tried to stop it by basically preventing him from ever becoming Doctor Doom. And granted, he could have gone back and killed his mother or whatever, but He Who Remains may have also known that you needed to have an Iron Man in 616. Perhaps Tony Stark was one of the anchor beams. That's another possibility. Or Victor Von Doom. So, when everything went to shit, because of not just the Kangs, but, the loom blowing up and all the events that happened in Loki Season 2, what if then that would explain why Doctor Doom is back, and eventually Doctor Doom is going to find out what happened. He's probably going to find out that there's a variant of him that existed in 616 that was originally him that became a hero. Therefore, because the Fantastic Four takes place in the 60s, right, and presumably at that point they're all going to be adults, which means that it's possible that Victor Von Doom in that universe was born in the 30s. Therefore, the safest thing for He Who Remains to do is to pull him out of there, put him in the 616 as an Iron Man type hero, preventing real chaos from happening because of his own fear that Doctor Doom could overthrow him. That's one way they could do it. Now, is this going to piss off some people? I think so. I think there's some people who are going to think that it hurts the Tony Stark character. I don't know if it does, because on the contrary, it just goes to show that nurture above nature. If you're raised by good parents, you become a good person. You don't have to necessarily, you're not born evil, But it would also explain how Doctor Doom existed prior to Tony Stark, the origin of the Tony Stark that we know. And then later on, maybe after Secret Wars, they could bring back the original Tony Stark that was baby swapped by He Who Remains. And maybe that's how they reboot Iron Man into MCU Phase 7. Because there's been rumors of them, after Secret Wars, rebooting everything and starting over again. Or at least, not everything. Because some people are going to stay over. But a new Iron Man, a new Captain America, besides just Sam, like somebody else. Just, I guess, a new Steve Rogers. Just kind of them starting over again with the way the Marvel Universe was supposed to be, which is with the Fantastic Four and all these characters that didn't belong to Disney because Fox owned them. Spider-Man, etc., etc. Just one possibility, I hope that makes sense to you. If you hate the idea, that's all right. Leave a comment, let me know what you don't like about it. If you do like the idea, leave a comment, let me know what you do like about it. But it's just a way for them to kind of say, wow, so He Who Remains created this character that everyone loves who was supposed to be a villain. He Who Remains accidentally saved billions of lives. but he did it because of his own fear for what Victor Von Doom would become. And this is all based on them saying that Doctor Doom is not a variant of Tony Stark. With this story, he sort of still is in a degree, or at least Tony Stark's a variant of him, but it really is him. You know what I mean? It really is him. But with the multiverse, there's a gazillion things they can do. They have different actors playing the same character. They have different characters played by the same actor. You know, there's all kinds of mixing and matching here they can do. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments.